understanding our Buddha nature, I'm going to speak on the five aggregates of clinging, um, as well as the five remembrances of Buddha. To start with, the five aggregates are probably one of the harder one of the harder concepts within Buddhism for people to get, uh, mostly just because they're a bit more abstract, and they relate to the nature of reality. Uh, the five aggregates essentially, they are the ideas that make us individual, that create the being that we are. Um, some schools of thought believe that the five aggregates are what make up our personality, um, or perhaps like our karmic path. Um, but essentially, the five aggregates are, in addition to being what to create us as unique individuals, they are what we hold on to. They are part of what we hold on to that keep us from attaining Buddhahood and seeing our Buddha nature and really just allowing ourselves to let go of attachments. So the five aggregates, they are matter, um, feeling, sensation as one, perception, thought, and consciousness. So the aggregate of matter is essentially material sensation. Anything from your initial five senses of taste, touch, feeling, sight, and smell. Those are going to make up the part of you that is dictated by matter. Um, the aggregate of feeling sensation is that of tone. So like when you are in an experience, what is the tone of that experience? Is it like happy or sad? If you're walking through a dark hallway, like it might feel ominous or scary because that's what you've associated it with through movies or through past experiences. The aggregate of perception is that of identification and labeling. So like I am me, and that which is without is not me. Like I label this as a door, this is my phone and a camera. These are things that I identify, not necessarily with, but I can identify because I have perception. I have the ability to perceive them, and they seem separate, so they get a different label. The aggregate of thought is essentially like that of opinion. So whether you like something or not that's happening, or just like ideas. So people think that ideas are owned, like we own our ideas. Our ideas, they are ours, but they're not ours. Ideas exist just like in space of whatever, in the void. They're just all out there. I know this sounds like weird and ridiculous. You're like, oh, the thought, it comes out of my head, my brain works, that's where the thought comes from. But no, it's really, it's a wave, it's a frequency that you're tuning into. Because like the way that I think now is quite different than the way that I thought a year ago. In general, my thoughts were more negative. Um, they were more of a baser nature, like things like sex and food, um, money, stuff like that was much more on my mind than it is now. Not that like money or food in particular at the time. But we get these ideas that thoughts are our own, but they're really just wavelengths. They're wavelengths that we're tuned into because of how because of our composition through these five aggregates. And our composition changes, like as mine has changed now from what it was a year ago. So the thoughts, these opinions, these ideas of that I have of the world that I perceive as outside of myself are not what they once were. And it's not because I have control of them. It's literally because I have raised my vibration to a point where I operate on a different frequency, and I no longer get as many of these baser thoughts. Um, And then the fifth aggregate is essentially the aggregate of the aggregates. It is consciousness. Um, and this is because you can't just say consciousness is a thing without bringing the other four aggregates into it. So the combination of thought, perception, feeling, sensation, and material sensation are what create us as individual beings, and that unique combination is what dictates how we go about our lives. Um, and with this, I'll go into the five remembrances of Buddha as well. They're not quite related to the five aggregates, but because of how long they take to talk about, and because the final of the remembrances is directly related to what I just said, it's a good segue, I feel, or a good transition. So the five aggregates are: we are of a nature to grow old, we are of a nature to get sick, we are of a nature to die, everything that we love will ultimately leave us, and the actions, and the actions are the only things that we own. We cannot escape any of these, and our actions are the foundation with which we stand on. So what this means is that because of this body in this world that we live in, that is composed of all of these temporary things and stuff which we see as outside of ourselves, and we are affected, this internal self is affected by the outside, we age, we get sick, we die. These other circumstances are constantly interacting with us, changing to some degree the composition of our five aggregates, and essentially dictating the flow of our lives. Not like our choices or what we want or any of that, but just like we all have a path, a set path that is dictated by our makeup. Very much like a program, like any game or whatever. Uh, so a program is designed to do a specific thing, and there are all kinds of different aspects of the programming language that are put in there to dictate what this program does. And we're no different. We're essentially just a biological computer running software that was created by the universe rather than by another person. And so, with this, this says that we don't have free will. And I'm not going to go into that because it's not what this is about. To put it simply, free will is an illusion that we think that we have. But even though it's an illusion, we still have to own up to our actions. For the simple fact that anecdotal evidence will show you that people who don't own up to their actions suffer as a result of them. But those who do, like while you may suffer if you own up to your actions, if you continue to do it, you will eventually suffer less. Just as in literally any other teaching in Buddhism, they all go back to the cessation of suffering. But these five remembrances in particular, the reason that they're so important is because we must understand them. If we don't understand them, we are bound to suffer. If we don't know that we're gonna grow old, if we don't know that we're gonna get sick and that we're gonna die, it's all gonna come as a surprise to us when it does happen. And anybody who's had a shitty surprise knows they're a lot more impactful than like a happy or a good surprise is. So to understand that these five remembrances are determined to be part of your life is part of the cessation of suffering within yourself. It's also part of awakening to your Buddha nature. As you study or learn or live these different aspects, whether it's the five aggregates or the five remembrances or the eightfold path or or knowing the Four Noble Truths, all of that is part of awakening to your Buddha nature, and ultimately leads us to all becoming Buddha. Maybe not in this life, Maybe not in the next one. Might be 1,000 lives later. Whatever. Doesn't matter. But ultimately, as you begin to understand these, your own Buddha nature will come out more, and you will also begin to see the Buddha nature within the rest of the world greater. It will broaden your perspective, lessen your suffering, and more importantly, it will make the lives of the people in your life better.